Hello, Georgia Jaguar here, independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, stampingeorgia.com. I'm here to share some inspiration with you today. First, I was inspired by a card that I received in a card swap from Leanne Greff, fellow demonstrator from Minot, North Dakota. Here is Leanne's card. It's lovely, isn't it? I love this split panel stamping with the Painted Harvest stamp set. And I'm going to show you how I change that up a bit with just a different color combination, how to achieve that split panel stamping. And then I also changed up the way I finished it. So come on, let's get started. So here are the two cards again. Love the color combination. I just decided to put a different color behind the crumb cake because I had crumb cake leaves and I wanted them to show up a little bit better. So before we're going to stamp, because I made my label, the new pretty label punch, I am going to actually punch it out of the cardstock. I'm going to move in just a little bit so it won't show on the border, but a paper saving tip, because that will get covered up with one of my panels. I'm just going to use that for my label for my card later. I can set that aside. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to set my Stampin' Pierce mat because I do feel it's really, really important to stamp on top of the mat with the photopolymer stamps. And then I'm going to put just a teeny bit, that one's gone, teeny bit of adhesive down underneath my pieces before I get started. And these are 1 5/8. And I'm going to put them right next to each other, and I just put a little adhesive to keep them from slipping around while I'm stamping, or they like to stick to your stamp too when you get them inked up. So I just put them next to each other. So I'm going to stamp the largest background stamp from the stamp set with crumb cake ink, and I'm going to stamp it directly onto my sheets, and you'll notice it's very soft looking. And this isn't about stamping hard when you're using photopolymer stamps, but it's more about just making sure the entire image touches the paper. So now I've got my sunflower stamped. I'm going to come in and add my detail with soft suede ink. Normally you can get by with doing this with just one color, but I wanted this design to show up a little bit more intense. And I find when I'm using the Painted Harvest that I actually like the results better when my stamps or ink pads aren't quite so inky. I'm going to use that same color to stamp the centers. Just want them to stay slightly dark like that. And again, I've been doing several of these and I have not re-inked my stamps because I wanted it to stay soft. I'm also going to do the outline of my leaves with the crumb cake, because I want them to be light as well. So I'm just going to fill in any spaces. And because I've used the same color ink, I don't have to worry so much about those stems stamping over my flowers. I'll just peel that up. So I just used a little bit of adhesive to hold it in place. And I'm going to go ahead and attach those. And I like to start, when I've got 3 things making my pattern, I'm going to start with the 2 outside pieces. See how that covers that up? You just want to make sure not to go in too far so that you leave a space. And I want to put them back on the paper in the same, or on my background. And my Very Vanilla mat that I'm putting this on is 4 by 5 1/4. So it's like matching a puzzle when you go to put it back. So if you put the 2 outside pieces on first, and then just leave that about 1/8 inch border in between all of them, you're good to go. And then I'm just going to add that, and see, we're going to cover that up. I love to save paper like that when I'm doing a project like this. And I can see it. I wasn't looking very well. I actually didn't quite cover that one up. Move that over, just leave it, because you know what? I can cover it up with my leaves. Then I went ahead and stamped crumb cake on crumb cake with the outline of the leaves on a scrap to add as an accent. I've stamped my sentiment already on that piece that I cut out. And then I'm going to take a 1.5 inch circle. I punched this out with my 1.5 inch circle punch. And just to add a fun accent, there's oftentimes stamping on the back side of most things that I do. I'm just going to layer that onto that circle. It fits perfectly behind that. I'll use a couple of dimensionals. To put that on my card. And then last, what I'll do is add my little leaves. I put just a touch of adhesive on the stem, and gotta love these new mini dimensionals. I just put one of those on the back side of one of the leaves, tuck it underneath, and we wanted it to cover that little spot that I didn't quite get covered, and there I have it. So I've used Calypso Coral, Crumb Cake, and So Saffron in this different color combination. Here's another one yet, and this is Tangerine Tango, Crumb Cake, and Crushed Curry if you like a little bit brighter. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you'll give this split panel stamping technique a try.